you very much, Honorable Shivambu.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I think perhaps the
Welcome back in
oh yes, like
2018.
I'm crossing with the Standing Committee on Finance that is dealing with other important issues well, staying off. Like tomorrow, we're going to be dealing with that as well. The I think the submission by Comrade Lucky is refreshing, and it's a far cry from the convenient amnesia, the convenient forgetfulness that defined the people who brought advocates next to them here. And it's quite strange that those who had white lawyers next to them were the most forgetful of evidence leaders in terms of what happened. Even things that happened like less than a year ago, they kept on saying, we do not remember, I do not know, all of those things. But I think it tells the kind of characters that we've been dealing with up to so far. I'm going to ask specific questions and quick questions about the following individuals, about Salim Issa, about Iqbal Sharma, about Tony Gupta and Duzane Gupta, Oswald Mashaba as well, Zulim Kize, and then Maria Gomez. On Salim Issa, you said you convened a meeting in Zurich. Do you know who was in that meeting and what is the agenda which was discussed there?
Well, I haven't met Salim Issa at all.
Yes, I'm aware. Yes, I'm saying that you spoke about the meeting that he convened of
that's
people
what
that were interested in Zurich.
That's what some of the manufacturers who were summoned to that meeting and who conveyed that message to me in Berlin. So I think that it was not one. I think that it seems it was quite a couple of those. And my view is that I could ask them if they are willing to even confirm to Parliament, to corroborate what they've said at that time. But I can't mention their names, but there's quite a couple of them who were summoned to Zurich and money was extorted from them.
And then who had submitted his name as part of the evaluation board of Prasa? It was the Indian guy.
The Indian guy, yeah. He brought in the 2 CVs that I've submitted here today.
I think maybe, Chair, it must be noted that Asalemiza is the person who was like the biggest shareholder in Trillion Capital, which got 500 million from Eskom for doing nothing, as per confirmation of one of the employees. And the second person is Iqbal Sharma. He's part of the people whose names were recommended by the Indian guy. And he later on became the chair of the committee of Transnet that evaluated a bid which resulted in the awarding of 50 billion rand tender to China South Rail and China North Rail to supply the rolling stock to Transnet. What was the price which Prasa had reached per locomotive or in terms of the whole process? Do you remember, or do you have got information about that?
Well, I think that on the commuter trains, I don't know what would have been the average per locomotive, per coach. But on the locomotive, I think that we were, unlike paying 50, I think that we were paying for the diesel locomotive, which is what has been delivered already. We're paying on average about 32 million per coach, per locomotive.
32 million?
32 million indeed.
And I think when we deal with Transnet, we'll realize that ended up at 50 million rand per locomotive, and a part of it was paid to companies that are linked with the Guptas. And I want to understand, when you then reprimanded both Tony and Duduzane in the second meeting when you came back from Berlin, what did they say? Did they threaten you with your job?
Not Duduzane, as I said, that he didn't even speak much in that meeting. But Tony, Rajesh Gupta did threaten, and actually he focused his attention on Ben Martins, Honorable Ben, and said that we told you we didn't want Lucky, and you told us that he's your comrade. So for me, it tells me that there was a discussion previously when this issue was raised somewhere, but it became evident in there. They accused me of supporting Bombardier, and I said, but there was no basis that was provided for that. They said, you met with Bombardier. I said, well, I'm the CEO of Prasa. I met with Bombardier. I met with the French. I went to Spain to meet Talgo. I met KEF. I met Mitsui in Japan. I met the Koreans. I said, so
That's
after
fine.
I met all these companies.
Who got the rolling stock contract in Prasa?
It's a company called Gibela, and it's led by the French company called Alstom.
So who were the anchors of the Gibela part, the B partners who were the major names there?
The 30% BE were appointed separately. They were not linked, and that is why in the media there was criticism that I'm doing a forced marriage.
And then the BE, who was it? Shivambu?
No, Shivambu was not. Shivambu is only involved in the locomotives, not on the
rolling stock.
Not on the rolling stock commuter trains. No.
So who was the BE in the rolling stock, the 30%? Who was appointed?
There were two groupings.
Okay.
Firstly, the French Alstom came with a company called New Africa Rail, and this New Africa Rail shareholders. There are two people that there's the two guys who were there. It's a guy called Monde Africa, and the second one was Talente Mieni.
Okay.
And the third one, I think that it was a guy based in who formed the company with them, was a French guy. So those are the people who were there. There was a grouping of women in there, but I can't recall the name.
I think that's useful. Oswald Mashaba, do you know him before he got the tender for locomotives in Prasa? Do you know each other with Oswald Mashaba?
No, not at all. I only knew him after Shivambu was awarded the tender.
So you said that the TG of the ANC at that time said that because Shivambu is going to receive about 400 million rand, they demanded
465 million.
465 million. They demanded 10%. Are you aware that at a subsequent stage, Shivambu paid possibly 20%, in tranches of 40 and 39 million to Maria Gomez and a guy called George Sabelo, who is a business partner of Edward Zuma?
Well, I became aware that Shivambu paid to Maria Gomez, and I think that they signed, I was told that they signed a contract for certain services that Maria Gomez, or rather a company, will provide. I don't know I read about the payment to George Sabelo, to a law firm, but I don't know for what specific services that payment was made.
So you did not link that payment to the demand of the TG of the ANC that 10% must be paid from Shivambu, because that almost resulted in almost a criminal inquiry on whether that payment was not illegal or not. Didn't you link that the two payments are linked? Because I'm saying this in relation to the fact that you said you discussed the finances of the ANC in the house of Maria Gomez with the TG of the ANC at that time, Zolem Kise.
Yes, I think, look, at that time, firstly, I think when the media inquired about it, they asked about the 80 million rands. You recall that it emerged from the affidavit of Mr. Popo Molefe. He said, look, 180 million has been paid to the ANC. At that time, he didn't. But you see, for me, I was interested in a number of, but because of, in the interest of time, I was interested in a different area when I first followed up that matter. But I didn't connect at that time this, but the media was saying, no, like you were the one who was paying the TG via that payment. And I rejected it because I think that in court they've dealt with a lot of weaknesses on how the contract was awarded. But you ask me, at that level, at my level, at the level of our chairman, was it a corrupt deal? Did I facilitate was I paying the ANC 80 million? No, I think that.
Yeah, I think maybe as a separate process, we'll try to draw that link of what was the ultimate destination of that 80 million rand that was paid to George Sabela and Maria Gomez by Shivambu, and whether that relates to. You said that there are other business people who are involved in the whole corruption. Who are these business people? I don't have the document that we are reading from. Who are these people? Maybe for record purposes, who are these people who are contesting for Prasa contracts and businesses?
Well, in the submission, I of course do mention the different political and economic forces. Look, on the business side, I think that there were people who lobbied. I mean, who pushed. If you look at, I'm not sure whether I would say by virtue of doing that they were involved in corruption. For example, China North Rail. China North Rail, they worked with Lazarus Zim, and they did come to Prasa, but they came to us in a different way. And this I'm dealing with in my supplementary affidavit to the public protector. Because what happened is that there was a lot of pressure on the former CFO of Prasa, Ms. Cindy Mabasokoyana. And she said, look, there's pressure for me to provide certain things. And I said, no. It can't happen. Who's putting pressure on you? So she then relented and said to me, look, there's these guys, Lazarus Zim, Sandile Zungu are trying to meet and find answers. I then said I'll meet with them. I then met with them in Pretoria. I met with Sandile, not Sandile rather, but Lazarus Zim. He brought in a very big delegation of the Chinese, and they actually brought in the model of the commuter train that they want to offer. So they were involved. They were involved in that, and yeah. So that would be one good example of business people that were involved, and others are of course beyond the rolling stock arena where business people. I mentioned, for example, here the fact that when we were doing the security contract in 2011, which was awarded in 2012, people like Gonongwane came and say, look, I'm coming here on behalf of a particular company. Can you look at them? But the issue is that what is not known in this country is that we as CEOs in particular are not involved in procurement processes. So we get recommendations. Sometimes things go wrong there, but because we are not involved, yet we are accounting for whatever the company does. And that I think is something from an accountability point of view becomes unfair, because if someone messes up there, you ultimately take. And I suppose it comes with the job, and you must take that accountability.
Thanks. Maybe last question is, I saw today the chairperson of Eskom and the acting CEO released the financial results of Eskom and say that Eskom is in a debt of about 470 billion rands. With your experience with state-owned companies and with you having played a certain role in the whole transition from a commission to a state-owned company, what do you think we should do with Eskom? You can take your time, because I think at the end of this inquiry, we should then develop some durable set of recommendations on what should happen to state-owned companies, what should be the governance structure, what should be the accountability mechanisms, what should be the durable solutions, and how do we insulate them from political influences in the manner in which they've been influenced in the recent past. What do you think we should do? What is to be done?
Thanks, Honorable Shivambu. Look, I think earlier on I dealt, Honorable Chair, with some of the things that I believe to be our achievement. I think some of the things that we did as a country, once we've succeeded, we need to perhaps consider reversing. Remember, the the different businesses about the Transnet. You've got generation business. You've got the transmission side. You used to have what we call Eskom Enterprises, which was doing quite a lot of work even outside of the country. I think that model will need to change. At that time when government was trying to change Eskom, I think the primary objective was that, look, let it have a balance sheet to be able to go to the market and raise this. And I think that we came up also with the issue about the regulatory body, about how you do, because there's a major contradiction, I think, with our own state-owned enterprises. Doesn't only affect Eskom, it affects Transnet, for example, on the regulated by NESA on the on the pipeline business. I think that is a regulated side of things. We've got AXA, for example, with the regulatory committee about what do you do with all of those. Then we've got SAA, for example. And if we were to go through them, SAA, I'm raising in a controversial issue in the document. What is happening? We have SAA buying aircraft. Everything, Johannesburg used to be a hub. It used to land there. And when it landed in Johannesburg, we know that SAA played a major role in moving out all of these people. When we travel to London, that's still the model. But today, you'll see that the Emirates move more people out of Cape Town directly, and they land here. And they've got a strategy about how many people they'll bring into their own country, the seats for tourism and economic development. We think the problem with SA is only about its internal efficiencies and everything. I don't believe so. I actually think that here we've got a major failure of policy, okay? Where we give everyone, I mean, you land in Durban. There are more flights to Dubai or whatever, or to the Gulf from Durban. British Airways here is sitting here. All the direct flights, for example, from here to London, it suits us. Maybe when you fly from here, you try. But the impact on us, so the current model does not support the asset base that we're trying to create. So I think that is one major contradiction that we have. Secondly, I mentioned in the report here, and I'll finish with Eskom, Honorable Shivambu. When you look at what we did, there was an insistence at the time, particularly between 1999 and 2004, that when you restructure state assets, all the proceeds must go to the National Revenue Fund. Now, we know that not each and every cent that was generated from these entities went back to be reinvested into rebuilding the capacity. And I think that is something that the committee needs to reflect on. Whether when we say we want to unlock the value out of these particular entities, we should be dealing with them in that particular fashion. So I remember the Honorable Sakima Makozoma, when he was still CEO or Managing Director of Transnet. He used to argue this point to say, and he used to talk about the Bolivian model. He says, if you are restructuring Transnet, you are taking money out of Transnet, or you are generating proceeds out of the restructuring of Transnet, let it be invested to strengthen that particular business. But again, we are a developing country. We've got a lot of competing priorities. So part of the issue, I think that's what government is trying to do. And Parliament has passed the money bills in such a way that everything has to go through that route. So we may need to review all of that. Eskom, in my view, I think that we did two major studies. One of them was that we're looking at the BE appetite for investment. I'm talking about 2000, 2001. Research or evaluation that was done showed or proved beyond reasonable doubt we didn't have any BE with the capacity to do that. And to be involved in the generation capacity or the investment requirements and we left it at that. I think it's a mistake. You know, when you say you want to build, for example, black industrialists, it requires you to take a bold step, including paying monies up front to build this. And I've said this in Parliament, a lot of people do not like that. Yes, you don't like Honorable Swartz, for example, the kind of prepayments that we've seen, which have nothing to do with the actual contract or building of capacity. But you can't avoid it that you're going to have prepayments if you want to build black industrialists and you want to build capacity. And it's something that our national treasury must need to think about carefully. Because you can't have, DTI can say build black industrialists, but you have to put some of their resources up front for that. The second issue about Eskom is that a lot of private sector investors were saying we're not going to be, Eskom is going to wipe us out if we invest money, but you still have the generation and the transmission business together. So that is one of the things that we've got to look at to say, because we've always been stuck to the issue, and maybe it's because of the history we come from on economic policy. We said that we wanted to ensure that Eskom remains an integrated company. But you can still have an integrated company, but with a bit of, allowing a bit of competition and the distance that is there. And I think that you've got the issue about tariffs. We know that there's a big conflict on the issue of tariffs, not only between Eskom, not on the energy side. It's happening on the ports, where Transnet, for example, had wanted C10 tariff levels, and that the ports regulator wanted a different thing. And you recall, when we came here to Parliament at the time, we wanted to pass the national ports.
Mr. Montana.
No, yeah, that's fine.
I know, I can see the passion that you have, the information that you have for us. It's over flooding in your head. Hence, you said you've got these trainings, but you were trained as a person, and it is in you. It's not within the entities. But I think you are doing very well. You are giving us information that we really need, but we still have members that want to ask questions. Mr. Mare.
I wanted to say
Honorable
thanks, Chairperson, and just one last issue.
No. You went, because you asked question. Your last question, when you asked your last question, you had only 1 minute that is left, and Mr. Montana took 7 minutes to respond to your question. So that was part of your time. Can we give to Mr. Mare? Just Mr. Mare will give
30 seconds to put one.
No, Mr. Shivambu, Uyan Moshanyan. Can you hold that question?
It's not a question, it's just a record issue.
No, Mr. Honorable Shivambu, can we please respect the procedures of this committee? Mr. Marek, do you want to ask a question?